Namathu Ratanatayasa. May I pay homage to triple them, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Good evening, everyone. So today is Friday the 7th of May 2021. This is Achan Sujan from Varapunya Meditation Center, Aberdeen, Scotland. Hello, Margaret. Good evening. Hello, Anish. Paul. Hello, Paul. Colin. And everyone. I hope that you're all having a wonderful time and enjoying this very changeable weather. Moments of sunshine and then moments of hailstones and rain. It's quite a typical Scottish weather. Hello, Yvonne. We had a first time walking through the obituary or vitriol around the West Hill. The moment when we started to walk, left the temple, it was a hailstone, heavy hailstone, and it was wet. But we continued walk, and then suddenly sunshine, and all the clothes dried out. So it was a lovely walk, although it was long, non-stop, going through the woods and the lands and the farms, beautiful houses, and so it was lovely, and yet experiencing very different weather throughout the time. And also today is waiting for the results. The election results, and everybody will be anxiously waiting for the results, that what is going to be. Some probably afraid of an independent referendum may come, and others will be enjoying and celebrating that, yeah, finally we're going to have it. So mixed emotions and a mixed weather, so there's no difference at all. Good evening, Anish. Good evening, David. So like that. But anyway, so it's not the topic of our discussion tonight. Our topic of a discussion tonight is continued from yesterday and day before yesterday, which I have started from the topic of 5 faculties. Anyone remember 5 faculties? I would be grateful if you can remember. And then I was from that 5 faculties on the first faculty, which is the faith or the saddha. I've been explaining what is the saddha, or the faith and the confidence according to Buddhism, and how we can gain it. And further on, yesterday I was talking about just a brief introduction to the Buddha himself. That how this Buddha exists and how the history takes his existence. Okay, Yvonne is talking the second faculty, that's the energy. Okay, well done, you remember. So today again, on the basis of that, I am going to faith, wisdom. Okay. So Anish is faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. Well done, Margaret. Well done. You have done pretty good job. Well done. So that is the 5 faculties that one has to have in order to develop any journey, particularly in a spiritual journey. And then on the faith factor, I am talking on how to gain the faith, and what kind of a faith we should have, faith in Buddhism is not based on a blind faith, and it needs to be well discussed and well investigated, and that's how you will have this faith which becomes the true belief. And within that faith, I was talking about the Buddha. Margaret is top of the class, Colin says. Yes, that's right. Not blind faith. Yeah. Right. So, in terms of the Buddha, then I was talking about the short history, biography in a way, which we can find here and there. There is, in fact, no concrete biography of his life. It's all in here and there, and later it was compiled by one of the poets. It's called the Buddha Charita, who wrote this Buddha Charita book, and that's how Buddha's life been compiled as a legend. But here and there we can find in the canons that his life. But today I think I will like to give a few words that related to the Buddha and also a monk. You may have heard monks in Buddhist monks known as a bhikkhu. Yeah, B-H-I-K-K-H-U, bhikkhu. That's the one word. And the second word is muni, M-U-N-I, muni. And the third word is called brahmana, yeah? B-R-A-H-M-A-N-A, brahmana. So these are the few words that I think it's quite interesting to know in relation to the Buddha or Buddhism. Bhikkhu, and which is for the male monastics called a bhikkhu, female monastic called a bhikkhuni. And bhikkhu and bhikkhuni are the disciples or someone who has followed the path to be a monastics. And here again, a monastics in the Buddhism is basically one has to follow some of the restrictions or follow the rules, and basically you have agreed that I'm going to wear the robes and I'm going to follow the rules, and that's how one becomes a member of the monastics. And when you look at the bhikkhu, the word bhikkhu, there's two meanings of the bhikkhu word, and a bhikkhu normally will be written a word bhikkhu, but in a spoken word normally known as a bhante. You may have heard using the bhante. Bhante basically means a monk, a senior monk. And meanwhile you may have heard someone using achan, and then someone may have heard lumpi. These are some of the words that one has to understand. So Bhante, B-H-A-N-T-E, Bhante is referred to monk. In fact, it is referred to as senior monks as a senior monk. So Bhante, but nowadays, whenever householders referring to, in general referring to a monk or a novices, they call it Bhante. Yeah? It's like pronouns to all the mendicants, Bhante. And for the word achan, is the word came from acharya, which is a Sanskrit word, which means a teacher or a master. And this achan is mostly used in Thai tradition, and that's how it's been used as to call someone who is a master. And so achan. And lumpi is again a brother monk. Right? And these all simply referring to a particular word called bhikkhu. And here bhikkhu basically means a person who has seen a danger in this samsara. Okay? So the word bhikkhu means a person who has seen a danger in the samsara, birth and death, so that he gave up a household life and become a monk, become a monastics, known as a bhikkhu. So that's how the translation be. The first translation is that. And on the basis of that, that's why when one becomes a monk, there is a saying that Sabba Dukkha Nisarana Nibbana Sachikaranathaya. That basically means in order to overcome all the sufferings, and then attainment of the liberation, I would take the vows to be a monk. So that is the word used, the day when you take a vows to be a monk, proper monk, higher monk. And that's how it relates the word. A person who has seen a danger in the cycle of a birth and a death and taken the vows to be a monk is known as a bhikkhu. And that's exactly what happened with the Buddha. When he was a prince, he has seen that, oh, this is so miserable, the life is so miserable, and you have to get old, get sick and die, and then you have to reborn again. And if you're following the evening talks, you may have understood the concept of the rebirth again that I mentioned a few days ago, that Hinduism or Brahmanism those days was teaching that your soul will be traveling from one to another, but your body will be changing, which is different in other religion like in Christianity and Islam or Jewish, where the body and the soul is inseparable, and like that. So, and with that, then the prince Siddhartha also thought that, oh, this is so danger. You have always reborn in a different flesh, and then you have to be getting old, you have get sick, and then you're going to die. And it's so danger in this samsara, in this life of a birth and a death. And that's how he wanted to find the truth, and that's how he became bhikkhu. So that's the first translation, and that's why again there are so many current monk. I believe they are also in line to that path too. Some of them may not. Many of them are basically join the monastics to learn, to walk on the path to liberation. But having said that, doesn't mean everybody will succeed. They're just making a cause for future lives to come, so that eventually they will be enlightened. And in that same way, in any circumstances, I'm not claiming that I am a liberated one. Okay? So this is the first meaning of a bhikkhu. And a second meaning of a bhikkhu, definitely, which I am in that category, I would say. That basically means depending on others' generosity, one lives and content with what is he having. What is he having? So that is a bhikkhu. Or basically a beggar. Yeah? So some of you may have seen the book called From Prince to a Beggar. That is the Buddha. When he was a prince, and then he left the palace at the age of 29, that's how he became beggar. And that's a second meaning for the bhikkhu. And that's exactly what the bhikkhu means. And meanwhile, a bhikkhu is basically a person who is walking the path and always relying on others' generosity and being kind. That is the bhikkhu. And meanwhile, there are certain requirements that a bhikkhu has to follow. And that is the first thing. And first is to self-training. Restraining senses, restraining all the senses, and then content in the consumptions of any food, and content with the life that they are, and endure in the situation, and walking the path to the liberation. Further on, living an example life, a simple life, so that others can see the benefit, and that's how they will see the benefit from having association with the monks. So that's in Thailand in particular, and even in Burma, in Myanmar, and Sri Lanka and some parts, but particularly in Thailand, monks will go and collect the food. Basically, they are supposed not to cook food, which I have told you that as a monk you can't cook. But somehow, living in the West, I did learn to cook, although I was a terrible cook who nobody could eat it. But for in kind of in like a modernization, there no one is there to give you a food. Then now it's been stocked and cook food like that. But in Thailand, normally you will go and a kind of a collecting the food, or basically going to beg. And the only difference is the begging is different between the kind of an ancient Hindu practice, ascetic practice, even nowadays, that monks will not beg, saying that, oh, give me a food, or give me a food. Monks would simply walk holding a bowl, and whoever lay people or householders, they whenever they want to offer, they will say, Venerable Sir, please accept our offering. Now that is the form again, is the Buddha's expression is that Buddha's telling the bhikkhus that do not go for a food, but to teach people. Now, okay, Colin, thank you very much for the noodles and toasts. Oh, will be lovely. Beans and toast, Margaret. Yeah. So yeah, the philosophy behind the going for the alms or going collecting foods again, it's not for the food for the monks themselves, but the Buddha said that it's for the giving an opportunity for the householder to learn to let go things, and that's starting from learning to give things away to someone who we respect. And gradually, as we are developing our concept, developing our generosity by giving a small bit of things, and gradually over the period of a time you will be able to let go that these materials that I have accumulated after I got a job or I got grown up, but eventually these things will have to leave behind me. So that's how you will develop this sense of a detachment with this material things. And further on, I think if you've been following, you may hear me saying that you will be able to let go of your emotions, your feelings, and eventually sorry for that. And eventually you will be able to give up your identity view, it's called personality view, or me and my, the ego. You'll be able to let go. So that's why the whole philosophy behind monks going for alms is not just for the food for themselves, but giving an opportunity to householders learning by doing, offering foods, eventually letting go. So that's how the concept of a bhikkhu been introduced. And another word called muni. And a muni, M-U-N-I, muni referred to the Buddha in a sense that Sakya Muni means the sage of the Sakya clan. And meanwhile, Muni basically referring to any yogics or any ascetics, those who have attained the higher knowledge, they're known as Muni. Although the translation or the connotation of this word Muni means that sage, one who has attained the enlightenment or kind of a higher attainment, the word sage or what is called the sagasm, that a sage doesn't convey the complete the concept of a muni. So that's why some scholars prefer to put, use the word munihood rather than sagahood, or like that, sagahood. Funny word, sagahood. So they use the muni as a munihood, and so Buddha was someone who has accomplished on this spiritual journey. So that's why he was also known as Muni, Sakya Muni. Muni, a sage of the Sakyan clan, and a person who has crossed over, like that. And as a result of that, further on, he was well venerated, even during the time of this 2,600 years ago. And he many times, many suttas and discourses referred him as Muni as well. And there is another word called a brahmana. And brahmana normally in ancient India, that's right, Anish Sakya Muni. And brahmana taken a vow of silence. Okay, yes, Muni. A brahmana is normally in ancient India, even now, is taken on the credit of the birth. Someone who is born in a Brahman caste, then they will be Brahman for a whole life, and they will be well respected. Whereas the word Brahmana, according to Buddha's interpretation, is that someone who has done good things and liberated himself, and one who has crossed, and one who hasn't got any attachment to anything. So there is a comparison given that a person who is detached is a Brahmana. Okay? So that's why, and someone who is attached to is not the Brahmana. And on that basis, Buddha is known as the great Brahmana. Okay, is known as a great Brahmana as well. So that's why and Buddha basically gave a new interpretation that Brahman are not on the basis of a caste system, but a person who has overcome greed, hatred, and delusion will be regarded as a Brahmana. Yeah? Brahmana. So that's why this Brahmana is also, and he is known as a Brahmana as well. And now we will come to the Buddha that I was talking. And unfortunately, we have to stop here, the word Buddha, and I have explained the Buddha word yesterday and day before yesterday. So from now on, I will be talking on the 9 qualities of the Buddha, which we normally chant morning and evening, and which is Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho Vijja charana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhamma sarati sattha deva manusanam buddho bhagavati. So this is again, whenever we are chanting every morning and evening, that's not a form of worshipping, it is not a form of begging to the Buddha, but it's simply reciting and recollecting the virtues of the Buddha, that he was in this way. And similarly, there is a possibility that we can also free ourselves as well. So I will be focusing on that following days, but unfortunately this weekend there won't be any talks and a guided meditation due to we are having a retreat at the center. So we'll see you on Monday. So until then, good night, and see you shortly for the evening chanting and guided meditation. Until then, good night. Take care. Thank you everyone for your interaction. May you all be well and happy. Stay safe. Take care. Sadhu.